Okay, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the continuation of the Life Mastery Path class series. It is Sunday, May the 24th, 2026, and we're continuing. So, welcome, MG, and welcome everybody else who's joined in. Let's just dive right in with the first PowerPoint to orient you a bit to what this work is all about, what we've been up to. And then we'll take a nice deep dive into the topic tonight. So, oops, one sec. Okay, great. So I'll be sure to see my screen. So we've been exploring the Life Mastery Group. A couple of things as we go into tonight's topic, the sacred geometry of meditation, including looking at the Merkaba field, as well as sacred geometry itself, and the energy body. But it's all related to life mastery. And the first theme we can look at are the sacred geometry symbols in our school and association and the company's logo. So you'll see the six-pointed star is going to be the main theme of tonight's topic. And it relates to mastery because it's a symbol of harmony and balance, and it's a symbol of you. It's not a Jewish symbol. It's used in Judaism now, but it wasn't for all of the history of Judaism. And it's actually found in every mystical, spiritual, religious tradition, one way or another. So I would encourage you to consider it as a universal symbol. It's basically made up of points and lines. It doesn't mean anything except for the meaning that you give it. But once you start contemplating these glyphs, these ideas, you start to see some really profound wisdom and insights that come through. So I just want to show you how all that's embedded in the school's logos to honor the depth of the work here. So basically, we're in the Life Mastery class, 7 p.m. on Sundays. And tonight we're going to the sacred geometry meditation, exploring Merkaba fields and the energy body. Um, so yeah, just a little bit overview of what we've been doing. So I introduced the topic life mastery, the self-actualized life, using the getting organized process, which we covered on the 26th, and the creating and manifesting process to achieve success in every aspect of your life. And I think a lot of people would think this is about financial success and having the home and having the car, and sure, but in the Life Mastery course, the teaching, when we go down the priorities, is to prioritize your spirituality. So see here, spiritual, mental, emotional, physical. I do this exercise with clients and students where we look at these categories and we say, okay, what are the categories in your life that you want to achieve success in? And then I say, what's most important? Seldom ever do I hear people actually say spirituality. But once we talk it out, I've never had anybody disagree with me that your spirituality is perhaps, I'm saying perhaps because you're allowed to have your own thoughts, of course, but to me, spirituality is the most important thing, and I hope to make that point tonight by revisiting the topic in depth. When you're spiritually connected, you are aligned with source, you're aligned with truth, you're aligned with peace, love, bliss, oneness, guidance. And we could say that spirit is the creative force that manifests all that's real. And from that, we have light. So you might say in scripture, God said, let there be light, right? In every tradition, there's some sense that there is a divine light, and there's a source to that light, which we'll get into tonight. Yet when we say God said, let there be light, it's sound vibration, right? Said in the beginning was the word or the sound of Om we're referring to here, or the Amen or the Amin. So there's this sense of emanation of light, sound, and geometry. We don't always go into the geometry part when we talk about it, but tonight we will. When you're aligned with those highest levels of creative vibration, it manifests a much healthier mind and heart. So when you're spiritually connected, generally, if that's through and through your whole being, your heart and mind are at peace, and you would never manifest psychosomatic illness because your body is at peace. So tonight we'll be talking about the energy body to some degree, sacred geometry, and what it means to be deeply aligned within your own system. For me, that's a huge part of life mastery. You might have lots of money, great home, great relationships, plenty of free time recreation, but if you're spiritually, mentally, emotionally, physically not at ease, then I don't think we could call it life mastery. So we're definitely going to revisit the deeper topics of spirituality tonight. Uh, and then just a little bit more context. In past classes, we talked about the enlightenment process, which is very much what this is always about, even in our school for hypnotherapy. It's still utilizing hypnotherapy as a path of healing and enlightenment. A Course in Miracles, a huge part of the work. We won't go too into those themes tonight, but Zen practice is relevant here. Here, if we think about the energetic of a Zen practice, it's very much descending. It's about coming into the body. It's about being present. It's about being here now. The yogic path, when you talk about samadhi, is a lot, at least the way I describe it, it's more of an ascending path. In Zen, we tend to focus below our navel. We're here now, we're in our body, we're on the earth, we're being functional human beings. But then there's the ascending paths, the movement into transcendental consciousness, focus on transpersonal, on the higher self, on the oversoul, of realization beyond physical matter, beyond this world. And in Buddhism, if you go deep into this world, you discover what Buddha did. It's shunya, it's empty. There's no individual separate self. You might say it's all kind of an illusion. It's not always the way Buddhism describes it. It's more dependent co-arising. This is because that is because this is. But either way, we're talking about an impermanent, changing world. In yogic philosophy, we're focusing very much on the absolute and ascending into the highest, a movement up the chakra system, usually focusing in the third eye and crown region. We talked about how Anahata meditation is a synthesis of those to be fully ascended, fully descended, fully open to spirit with an open heart. So we're basically diving deeper into the energetics of that idea tonight. And I'll show you with a lot of images um, actually what that's all about. So that's a little context. Again, feel free to ask questions or share anything at any time. Just a quick overview of, one sec. So this is us, the Institute of Interpersonal Hypnotherapy. You'll see the sacred geometry in our association's logo. If you want to dive deeper, onlinemonastery.com is where I have all of the Anahata teachings completely for free. You can register just so you acknowledge you're in the system. And then there's videos on this home page that give you somewhat of an intro. But if you go to Anahata Meditation here, you will see all sorts of workbooks, 12 workbooks based on the different levels of the training. There's 4 complete levels to it. This is over 60 hours of recordings. That'll take you through in detail everything we're talking about tonight. We just had our recent retreat up here in the Adirondack Mountains under the Anahata Monastery brand now. And here's a video if you are curious what we've been up to. We also have a retreat coming up again in October 22nd after our conference. The next conference is October the 8th to the 11th called the Enlightened Life in Orlando. So you can learn about that at instituteofhypnotherapy.com. And our new NERVA Interpersonal Hypnotherapy Clinic is officially launched. So if you're looking for private sessions, here you go. And also if you're a graduate of our school and you're interested, reach out and be happy to plug you in as soon as we can into that system. Without further ado, here's the PowerPoint we're actually going to utilize tonight. And Elizabeth, who was at the recent conference, excuse the repetition, but I decided to pull from that PowerPoint again with just a few other images in. So I used this image on the cover of my book, The Sacred Geometry of Meditation, which we're largely pulling from those themes tonight. But the color black, first of all, is worth acknowledging. Like, why does a Zen monk wear black robes? Why do I always feel inspired to dress in black? Here's an image of Anahata chakra. Anahat means that which is unstruck, that which is not vibrating, that which is in a state of pure potentiality. So while it's a symbol of the heart chakra, a chakra, an energy center, vibrates. Your body vibrates. But Anahat really is referring to the heart of your heart, the soul of your soul, the essence of your being. And if one use other words like that, the holy of holies, the mystery of all mysteries, what's even there before light? It's not dark. However, we can only use what's called a negative theology to talk about it. You can't actually say what it is. You can almost only say what it's not. However, while you can't intellectualize it or visualize it, you can absolutely experience it. And once again, on the model of life mastery, it could be said if you're not experiencing the very depth of your being, it's not mastery yet. If you have a glimpse of who you are spiritually, that's beautiful. Yet think about Buddha here sitting like this, somebody who's pretty much always one with that underlying ground of all being, but not as some transcendent absolute away from here and now, actually experiencing that peace and love and presence right here now. So the word anahat is referring again to that which is unstruck, and the reason the word is translated as unstruck, it's referring to a bell in its primal state before you invite the bell to ring. As Thich Nhat Hanh says, instead of hitting or striking the bell, we invite the bell to ring. Before you would ring a bell, invite it to ring, it's in a state of pure potentiality. You could say the underlying substance of the whole universe is this being. And what is this beingness? Again, I'm using words like peace, love, joy, bliss that might help to grasp it. It's beyond light, but one good term for it is just consciousness. And you're conscious. So if you think of anahat, or the underlying ground of your being, as something else outside of you, you miss the whole point because you are it. It's not that you have Buddha nature, you are Buddha nature. So Anahata chakra is referring to the energy center of the heart. And again, we'll go into the energy body a bit tonight. So definitely hold the idea of the six-pointed star in the heart center. The heart is the center between ascending, these are the higher chakras, and descending, or the lower chakras. So if there are three basic divisions, you've got Earth, or the physical plane. You've got the heart, the center of that. And then you have what you might just call heaven, which is a very misleading term because you could talk about multiple levels of what's beyond the physical. But basically, anything beyond the physical, or you could say the spiritual realms, or the realms of pure consciousness, pure light, pure energy, referring maybe to, depending on the system you're thinking of, the etheric plane, uh, the astral plane, the causal planes, and every tradition basically is going to have its words for these other levels of reality. But really, it's in the human being, which is where we find ourselves, that we can discover all of these mysteries within ourselves. So, one underlying premise for tonight's class is your body is the temple of spirit, right? We've heard that before, right? Your body is the temple of spirit. Well, you're not a body. That implies you're a spirit. And in A Course in Miracles, what makes a temple holy? It's not actually the temple, it's the altar itself. You are the altar of the temple of your body. In years past, and still to this day, you could go to different places, whether they're sacred sites, because the earth just has a certain energetic vibration, which is always beneficial to be in these places, or sacred structures that are kind of human made or some other being made. The ancient megalithic structures, the Great Pyramids, Sacsayhuaman, and all these amazing places around Bolivia and Peru and Lebanon. I mean, there are places on the earth that people would go for initiations. And you see this all throughout the mystical and the mystery school literature, right? People who are seeking the divine and getting initiated in different paths and having to go to different places, quite often studying with different teachers. That's all great, right? And if we feel inspired, I think we should do it. But really, there's a direct path of going right inside your very own self, not having to travel around. Back in There's theories that talk about thousands of years ago, the planet wasn't at a certain vibration rate for a mass ascension. Basically, you had to be an initiate, and it was very hard to ever get into these kind of teachings. Now, with YouTube and AI and having any book you want in the whole world delivered to your house within, days or minutes sometimes, right? You could download Kindle and read anything you want to at any time. All the mysteries are out there for us to now understand. But what I would encourage you to consider tonight is whatever you're studying is really a study of the self. When you talk to a Zen master, they always point back to the self. It always comes back to who are you. So hold that thought as we go through this tonight. Who are you? If you'd like to go deeper into the way I'm explaining this stuff, the Anahata Meditation System is a novel that I wrote in the year 2000. It's fiction, But the stories are all my actual mystical experiences up until the age of 33, where I took all my journal entries, turned them into a book. It's housed at a fictitious monastery in the 1800s in the Adirondack Mountains, where I happen to find myself living now, running Anahata Monastery. So, not a coincidence. I love the book. I'm going to turn it into an audiobook soon enough, but for now, yeah, you can order that if you'd like to read the novel. I had students who said this is too important of a work for it to be a novel, so make it a textbook. And that's what the Sacred Geometry of Meditation book is. 175 graphics. We'll look at a lot tonight that goes into the essence of these teachings. Um, a graduate of our the Anahata Meditation system, who's not officially teaching it but loves it, is using AI to help to start mapping out this stuff. But think about when we talk about mastery, right? This is the life mastery course. Mastery over your body. We talked about the Buddhist ox herding pictures, taming the ox. The ox could be considered, of course, your mind, your ego, your personal self that gets in the way of joy and success and peace. But it's more than just taming the ox. In the yogic model and in Buddhist, a lot of Buddhist practice and other traditions, we tame the body as well. The ability to sit in meditation puts your body in a pyramid shape. If this person here were to put his arms, could be he or she, this person happens to be he, or anything in between. If this person put their hands on their knees, it's very close to the approximate 52-degree angle of the Great Pyramid on the Giza Plateau. Hold that thought. The ability to be able to sit with a straight spine in meditation is really valuable in the sense of mastery. When I teach yoga, like I do at our retreats now, students who experience that, and actually we're very close to being able to post the recordings of the yoga and Tai Chi, stretching, Qigong classes that I did at the retreat. What I do is very much based on getting your body to be able to sit in lotus. All of the Hatha yoga, stretching body postures, was designed basically for many reasons, spiritual reasons, energy clearing reasons, balance, strength, flexibility, but mostly all of those asanas or postures were designed to get you into Padmasana, lotus pose. So any version of this, I would recommend working towards. So there's a sense of strength, mastery over the body. The body doesn't run the show. Actually, at an advanced stage, you want to sit meditation. The body isn't getting in the way. Doesn't have a problem crossing up into some position like this. Don't have to be full lotus, but again, I really encourage you to get a sense of mastery over your life force energy. The three main points you see in this meditator, where his hands are within this cosmic mudra, is called the hara in Japanese or the tantien in Chinese or dantian in Chinese. It's very much the second chakra region, and it has a lot to do with being descended, grounded, fully here, fully now. Because the second chakra region here is above the first but below the third, if you just focus down on that region, you're generally covering your lower chakras. So why is this valuable in life mastery? Well, the more you learn about the energy body and the chakras, you realize they need to be open. And most people have relatively blocked, not 100% closed or the body would die, but relatively blocked chakras. And what does a blocked chakra mean? What does a distorted chakra mean? Think about your third chakra, your solar plexus. We store a lot of emotion there. When you tense up your belly, when people end up with irritable bowel syndrome, Crohn's, ulcerative colitis, not to put any judgments there, but when it's psychosomatic, when we're harboring a lot of anger and guilt and fear and sadness and hurt and shame, it affects our internal organs. My background is Chinese medicine, where I learned a lot about the energy body. And the primary reason for sickness is that meridians get blocked, chakras get blocked. Why do they get blocked? Basically, it's the suppression of emotion. When you learn to sit meditation, you learn to ride through waves of emotion and you learn to get that heart chakra fully open. But before I go to the heart, when you focus below the navel in meditation, you're cultivating here what's called jiriki, intense concentrated power. Notice how that's light in A Course in Miracles, the voice of A Course in Miracles, which basically is claiming to be Christ, says, "My message is light." I am basically here reminding you of the light of all lights, to turn back to the one truth, the underlying ground of being, beyond every name and form, beyond the Maya, beyond the illusion, beyond the insanity that we see. Underneath it all is light, is love, is truth, is peace. When you put all your tension below your navel, you're actually putting all that energy into your body and you're being more grounded and focused because that chakra is in between the first and the third, and you're putting your attention there. Just putting your attention on a chakra with the breath, especially, tends to help to open the chakra. Your sexual energy is down there. And in the Anahata meditation system, we honor it. We realize we are also sexual beings, right? You're a spiritual being, you're a mental, emotional being, you're a physical being. And if you haven't noticed, there's sexual energy. A lot of spiritual people are uncomfortable, a lot of people, spiritual or not, are uncomfortable with it. But again, mastery would be mastery over the sexual energy, not suppressed, but mastery, right? Where it's functional, where everything's working, where you have the ability to sublimate the sexual energy into something higher, but still actually enjoy the pleasure of your body. So it's not something that's suppressed or denied in this level of thinking. So basically, brief introduction to below the navel, where when you meditate, you're cultivating intense concentrated power there. And again, it's going to help to open all those regions just because you're putting your attention there. The closer you get to the light, the more you see your shadow. If you keep cultivating light and attention and you put it in your lower chakras, you're going to see what's there. Put your attention on your sexual energy and ask it questions. You could ask questions to these levels like, what's your story? What turns you on? What are you all about? How did you get hurt? How were you hurt in the past? When you put your attention on these regions, you will start looking at the shadow side, the stuff that's been suppressed there. Same is very much true of the heart. In Anahata meditation, we eventually pull the attention to the heart. This chakra is again the center of the ascending and descending. It's all about love, and anything that's a block to the awareness of love's presence tends to show up. So essentially, just breathing and putting your attention in your heart. So I would say below the navel, the thought mostly is I'm present, I'm grounded, I'm here now. And then, of course, if you go down to the sexual energy, you're present, you're compassionately, lovingly, non-judgmentally with those energies. At the heart, we're dealing with a lot of the sadness and the hurt and the fear that's cultivated over the years. But once that's open, the general energy, and I hope you just move into it as I'm talking about it, focusing in your heart, is self-love. Love for all beings, divine love, love, of course, for your family and friends. That's relatively easy, but really a heart that shines in 360 degrees. So all relationships are holy relationships, right? And again, that's Anahata chakra. So if you imagine a six-pointed star there on the right track, at the crown or the third eye region, we're talking about the attention being brought to spirit. Here, the eyes are often closed, where in Zen practice, going down below the navel, the eyes are often open. But when you're ascending, you can close your eyes. That's an inner journey. The point is, your body is the temple of spirit. When you learn to sit to any degree like this, and again, it doesn't have to be full lotus. It can be what's called quarter lotus, half lotus, seiza, or you can just do this sitting in a straight back, sitting in a chair with your spine straight, ideally not leaning back. But either way, you sit still, you put your attention here now, and when the mind wanders, keep coming back, keep cultivating that power here now. You're gaining mastery over body, mind, energy. And again, up here at the heart, we're focusing on clearing all the blocks to the awareness of love's presence. So in the end, mastery would be the heart is only love, but because love sees the suffering of this world, that becomes compassion, right? So love and compassion. When the attention goes up higher, especially when there's concentration and love, you're able to start putting that concentrated power on soul, on spirit, on consciousness, on pure consciousness, on the essence of your being beyond time and space. Hmm? Um, What you do with your mind during this whole process, is there's a lot to be said here, but essentially just think about concentrating energy and moving energy, having mastery over life force energy. As you hold these three main points in mind as we go through the PowerPoint, things will hopefully unfold clearly and make sense. Hara, below the navel, heart, and head. Three H's. Hara, heart, and head to give you some anatomical or energetic landmarks of your being. All of these teachings came to me in meditation, and this tent you can barely see in the background in 1996. The entire Anahata meditation system came to me. I founded Anahata Center in 1997 to start teaching this stuff. And I'm a big fan of the Ruby out of Omar Khayyam, and here you see an image of a young guy teaching the wisdom of the six-pointed star. You'll notice the symbols of the zodiac within the six-pointed star and the number 12 coming up predominantly. Anahata meditation has 4 levels, and each level, especially levels 1 and 2, have 12 meditations. So the number 24 is often found in mystical different mystery school literature, and of course with the symbols of the zodiac. So the base six system, if you look at what's happening with all the megalithic structures all over the planet, they're ancient beyond, it sure seems, beyond, modern humans. Like most people of us have no idea who could have possibly built those. But you can Google the work of Carl Munk, Munck. It's not a very well-known video. It's kind of a mystery, but Carl Munk has done amazing research on understanding the megalithic structures, but how they're not using a base 10 system, they use a base 6 system, which again, six-pointed star. So the idea here is the divine is the supreme geometer. So here, when we say, and it's not the bearded man on the cloud, right? We just need pictures sometimes to help us to understand. But if you say in the beginning there was light, but that's also sound vibration, but that's also geometry. So again, God is the supreme geometer, but we're pointing back to not the geometries of a church or a temple or a mosque or a synagogue or a pyramid. We're talking about the geometries of your own body to explore your very own being in this. This is a wonderful book I have here at the house called Bible Moralise. Their Bibles are made around the 13th century or so, with beautiful inlaid gold and incredibly beautiful pictures inside. But here again, you'll see God, more in the form of Christ, of course, as the supreme geometer of the universe. You'll also see that in the Masonic tradition, God is the supreme geometer. Freemasons at work. Here you see the modern version of cherubs or cherubim. Freemasons at work, but I don't know if you can see, but they're using the compass, the line, the pendulum, and you see the image of an ascending triangle. So more meant to be intuitive rather than a deep history into all this stuff. So here's Anahata Chakra. I had an artist draw this for me back in like 1996 or so. And everything's really just evolved around that idea in my life's work. This is actually my body in 2005, sitting in meditation, and then we traced exactly my body. So the proportions are exact. You can't mess with the exact proportions to try to make the theories work. The bottom of this bigger circle is at the tailbone, and the top is at the crown of the head. Look at the size of the head. That circle is actually the exact size from nipple to nipple. That's obviously not the same for everybody, depending on your age or how your body looks. But generally, my body at that time, the exact circle for the head is the exact size of the nipples, and it's the same size from the tailbone to the navel. Look where the six-pointed star fits into that. And so what I've discovered, and you can feel within your own being as you practice this, there's a star within a star, a six-pointed star within a six-pointed star. But to start opening up to the idea of the Merkaba field, this isn't just a two-dimensional six-pointed star. You want to see practice feeling it over your body as a three-dimensional six-pointed star. We had a really good discussion with my dear co-CEO and business partner, Luis Gallardo of the World Happiness Foundation. I was talking about this stuff at the retreat, and we're talking about a recent version of the Merkaba meditation, and he said he visualizes it in a dissociated way. The difference of Anahata meditation is you're fully associated, meaning you're inside of these grids and you can feel them and you awaken them and you utilize them. We can go into like why would you want to utilize this beyond just the idea of mastery. But basically, you can visualize this dissociated, meaning you could see a picture of your body in meditation and you could visualize these grids around the body. The idea of the Merkaba, it's actually an Egyptian term, but you do find it in the Old Testament. But without going too into all the history of that, I don't have all the images and whatnot in the PowerPoint to really go deep into it. But basically, Merkaba means light energy vehicle, a light energy body. The idea, and this is in Ezekiel's wheels, this idea of a chariot is related to this, that it's a vehicle that, like the word Merkaba actually is in the Bible as the idea of just um, a chariot. Sometimes it's just down to earth. This person was riding in a chariot. But deeper than that, this is a vehicle for out of body experience, for one, where you can transcend time and space. And they say you actually travel in the Merkaba vehicle. So you could visualize this around you, and that's dissociated, or you could be fully associated within it. The idea, and I'm far from the only person saying this now, it's just I stumbled across this way before I had the internet in 1996. And again, it took me 11, I think I said this before we started, it took me 11 years of researching my book, The Sacred Geometry of Meditation, before I wrote it and published it. Um, there's just so much to go into with these topics. But basically, go deep enough and you'll start learning about the six-pointed star. As let's go to alchemy for a moment. In the tradition of alchemy, they always talk about the philosopher's stone. If you saw Harry Potter, you heard about the philosopher's stone. The alchemists were super deep. They weren't just trying to turn base metals into gold. They had a very deep spiritual psychological understanding of basically our energy, our mind, our psyche, how we had to go through this alchemical transformation process. They're working to find the one substance that could help to transform anything back into gold or perfection. That was considered the philosopher's stone. When you go deep enough into alchemy, basically, the Philosopher's Stone is the six-pointed star. It is a balance of ascending and descending. Ascending energies tend to be considered masculine, and that's a big topic to unpack, but just, trust for now that usually when we talk about an ascending triangle, it's more of a masculine energy. A descending triangle is more of a feminine energy. When we get into, and I'll jump ahead for a sec while we're on that topic. So here. When we start looking at the divine proportions of the human form, you start seeing the idea of right side, masculine, left side, feminine. In Hatha yoga, the word Hatha, that word Hatha means sun, moon. So mastery in the deep traditions is saying you want a balance of ascending and descending. You want to be fully open to spirit with a fully open heart, but also fully grounded. All the deep teachings, they don't just transcend this world and escape and be done. They always realize you have to come back to this human form. It's about being fully human, but realizing to be fully human is actually to be fully divine. So within your own being for mastery, you want to unfold the divine feminine and the divine masculine. Doesn't matter what your gender or sexuality is, we all have masculine and feminine within us. And it's not just polar opposites. There's everything in between. So even though you don't hear much about the transsexual themes in early scriptures, right? It's very black or white in most books. In these traditions, we're honoring that there's a blending. If you look at the symbol of the caduceus, I should have that somewhere around here. The Greek healing staff of Hermes, but basically it's the chakra system. Here, these two meridians that are snake-like channels, that's Ida and Pingala Nadi, lunar and solar channels. The idea, you'll see the star in the center. Triangles represent the flow of energy. So here the triangles are down. So we're talking about energy descending down into the system, but it also needs to ascend back up in the system. Balanced ascending and descending, balanced masculine and feminine, balanced right and left. And again, energy can flow up and down through the whole system without hindrance, without block. Here you'll see this in Buddhist geometries. Uh, these images come from Elan Danielu, if I say the name correctly, a book on yogic practice. This is one of the first times after all my research, I'm like, oh, whoa, I am not the only one who realized the six-pointed star is the essence of the human form. So yeah, it's in Buddhism, it's in yogic practice, it's in alchemy. Here's the caduceus, the Greek healing staff of Hermes. But here's the idea of divine androgyny, a balance of masculine and feminine that unfolds. Here it is with the zodiac. And when you look at images of Krishna, Shiva, a lot of these beings who are considered men, they're actually remarkably feminine. There's a balance between both masculine and feminine within the being. So the topic is called divine androgyny. Again, solar and lunar balanced within us. All right, let's jumping ahead a little bit. So basically, your body is the place where you do the experiment. When you sit in meditation, you can focus on these three levels, hara, heart, and head. You can contemplate the six-pointed, if you close your eyes, if you want to even do it right now, feel what's called in sacred geometry a known distance, the space in your head. You're conscious. Right? That consciousness is a sphere. Now you could imagine the same kind of presence, sphere of awareness at your heart. It's about the same size, and you can imagine the same sphere of awareness down at below your navel. Then imagine a sphere from tailbone to crown, not a circle, but a sphere in all directions, a circle in all directions. And then you could start to actually feel and sense there's a Merkaba field, a star tetrahedral field. And if you want to go deep into a modern version of this, the Merkaba teachings go back at least, I believe, 800 years before the current era. And then there's many different schools of thought of Merkaba literature over the years. But one of the most recent is actually Drunvalo Melchizedek's work. He wrote a wonderful two-book series called The Ancient Teachings of the Flower of Life. I believe that's the title. Drunvalo Melchizedek, Ancient Teachings of the Secret of Life, the Flower of Life. I think it's in the book, but it's also, you could just Google it if you like. There's a 16-step meditation that works on activating the Merkaba field. So Anahata Meditation does this. You can go to onlinemonastery.com to learn all about the details. The difference, though, which I do enjoy doing, that didn't come to me in Anahata Meditation, is you can rotate the star tetrahedral fields. And that's part of what makes the Merkaba body a highly evolved energy body that can be used for travel. So number one, your body here now, when it's vibrating at this level, becomes a superconductor for divine energy. Ideally, no resistance to the life force energy within you. So tonight's class, again, is based on the Merkaba field and the energy body. As above, so below is one of the major principles you hear in the mysteries. As above, so below. If you, and not if, you as spirit, as pure light, if you think only the thoughts you think with light, what's called the order of manifestation or this emanation model, is that there's a descent of divine energy down into the human form. That needs to happen without any blockage or any hindrance. Coming down into it. Also, the energy, like I'm saying, needs to ascend up and back. But when you rotate the star tetrahedral fields, because it's done in your mind, they actually talk about rotating them at 9/10 the speed of light. The idea is your physical body is going to be as healthy as possible, considering other lifestyle choices and whatnot. Your emotional, your energy body, the etheric and astral body are going to be vibrating at the highest level. And when you're really attuned, you sense, you tap into what are basically just called the vibrations that happen before an out-of-body experience. So what I teach in our school is using deep hypnosis to get into deep meditative states. And then from there, you can learn out-of-body techniques. And one of the main features of this idea of a Merkaba vehicle is the ability to travel. But travel where? Would you just want to fly around this planet? You can do that. But what I would recommend if you start exploring out-of-body travel in this way of thinking is call out for the highest, seek the highest, whatever you call it God or love or Buddha, Christ, Krishna, whatever you call it. But when you're out of your body or just even in your body, you call out for the highest level that you can conceive of. So again, if you want to learn about rotating the Merkaba field, check out John below Melchizedek's work. And if you want to learn more about just Anahata Meditation, which really covers all of this, again, onlinemonastery.com. Yeah, Maurice, feel free. You want to use your mic or type it in?
Yeah, my question is, when you're spinning the tetrahedrons,
Uh-huh.
do you spin them in the same direction or
Um, I play with both. So
okay?
there's not just the Merkaba field that spins, you can spin. So let's talk about
Hmm.
clockwise and counterclockwise because they can go in any direction. My experience of out of body travel is when I, as consciousness, am rotating clockwise. And what does that mean? When the when you're about to have an out of body experience, the body is basically asleep, but you're conscious, you're awake. The energy body is vibrating at a very high rate where it feels literally like there's space between the atoms, and there is, but it feels like somehow
Hmm.
the physicality of it opens up. At that moment, you, the consciousness, are no longer locked into the body, or some traditions would say, as a prisoner to your body. Right? At that moment, you can leave. So the first thing you have to do is break coincidence with the physical so you can rotate. My experience is if you rotate counterclockwise and leave your body, you could end up back in time. So
Hmm.
um, that's one thing to consider is a counterclockwise rotation. Maybe it's just your intention, but I didn't intend to experience time travel into the past out of my body. I just started doing the rotation and found out, whoa, that seems to take me back. And then, yes, it's possible technically, although it's usually contraindicated, to go into the future, predict the future. You might consider that a clockwise rotation, but really the movement is beyond time and space anyway. So I tend to rotate the descending triangle clockwise at the top and the ascending triangle often counterclockwise. So I rotate them opposite directions. But yeah, you could probably read about different uses of why you would do that. To me, it really doesn't matter so much. Once they're vibrating fast enough, they actually talk about chakras. Like, does your heart chakra, because they say the chakras rotate, is it going clockwise or counterclockwise in rotation? And the answer is yes, because these things are beyond time and space. They're rotating both clockwise and counterclockwise, is one way to consider it. So when it's spinning fast enough in my awareness, which again, Drunvalo Melchizedek talks about 9/10 the speed of light. I mean, I don't, it's very hard to visualize that, right? But you also stabilize the grids because once they're rotating, they might wobble a bit. You get them to stabilize. Once it's really stable, it's spinning so fast, just consider it spinning in both directions simultaneously. It's just that this Merkaba field is alive. Once it's activated and alive, yeah, my experience is you're not really focused on is it clockwise or counterclockwise. It's just rotating, it's spinning. At that point, yeah, your vibration is just getting higher, 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 higher. So does that help? I can't say it's one or the other exactly.
Yeah, that helps. What I experience sometimes is that if I spin one direction, one side of my body gets more activated than the other. If I spin it the other way, other side gets more. But in the
Hmm.
end, both areas are benefit. You know.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, sure. I mostly it's going to be about finding balance, right?
Yeah.
That your whole system just feels highly aligned. So if it something was feeling misaligned, yeah, I would consider rotating a different direction. But generally for me, when I do on a hot meditation, I'm highly aligned. Then when I just visualize them rotating, set the intention to rotate, stabilize them, it does feel balanced on both sides. So I think you should feel it. Awesome. Good. Thanks, Maurice. Okay, let's take a little bit of a journey into sacred geometry and how it unfolds. This is called a cascading circular template. So basically, we start with what's called a known distance, the one, which can be represented as a point, but right now we're talking about circles. So consider this to be Anahata, source, beyond time and space. You, and macrocosmically, consider that the big guy, God beyond the beyond, the absolute Father, Mother, God, beyond gender, beyond form, beyond any sense of human. All right, we're talking beyond all vibration. Microcosmically, you could consider this you as the soul, right? You're created in the image and likeness of the divine. That doesn't mean that God is a body and you're a body. It means you're of the same essence, the same substance, the same likeness. You're like this, meaning you basically are this. If that doesn't make you feel comfortable to call yourself God, you could say, you're a drop of the ocean, but the drop basically contains the entire ocean as a fractal or holographically, right? You contain your source and your source contains you. So to find God, you just find you. Again, that's the altar of the temple, and your body is the temple. Here we have, if you take one circle and then just mirror another circle, we end up with two circles, or father, son, or father, mother. And so there's different ways to look at this. You could just say one is masculine, one is feminine, and then you're getting into yin yang. Or you could say this is one is God as source, as father, mother. And then the second circle could be considered the Christ consciousness, but you could also look at this as the divine masculine and the divine feminine. The point of intersection forms what's called the Vesica Pisces, or the fish's bladder, which could definitely be seen as your third eye point. This would relate to the sixth chakra level. It also relates to the Jesus fish that you see in the back of a lot of Christian cars, honoring Christ in the Piscean age, and as well as the miracle of the loaves and the fishes. So here you'll see that in Christ in a Vesica Pisces in a Christian church. This, I believe, actually was found in a mosque from Islam. But at that same level, we're talking about yin and yang. And again, the model here is a balance of masculine and feminine. My background is Chinese medicine, so I could talk about the Tai Chi symbol for hours. However, basically, honor how one flows into the other. Yin becomes yang, yang becomes yin. It's not that you should be only yang, right? If you're a man, you're only yang. You want to honor the yin side of it. So remember, the right side of the body is more yang, the left side is more yin. In Chinese medicine, we're working to get a balance of both qi and blood. Qi is considered more yang in relationship to blood, which is more yin, fire as opposed to water. In the kidneys, there's kidney yin and kidney yang. You want the strength of the masculine, and you want the softness and yielding nature of the feminine. Again, life mastery is balance of both. Om relates to this level, and Om is an OM. It's actually AUM, because there's the Ah, that's the outpouring of light. There's O, the sustaining energy, and there's the return. They call it a day and night in Brahma. In Hinduism, God extends out the universe and reabsorbs it back into him herself over and over and over again for eternity. But Om is the primary vibration, and in deep meditation, you can hear it. You basically practice what's called pratyahar, or sense withdrawal. It's an intense turning of the attention inwards. And if you listen deeply, you'll hear what's called the Anahat Shabd, the silent light, or the unstruck sound. It permeates all of creation. And when you're hearing in a deep meditation, you're on the right track, basically. The cascading circular template becomes the one becomes the two, becomes the three. And here you'll see the model of the Trinity. It's found in pretty much every religious, esoteric, mystical, ancient wisdom tradition. The idea of the three comes up over and over again. Father, Son, Holy Spirit, Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. But basically, every tradition has the idea of the Trinity. But remember, this isn't just abstract metaphysics. This is you exploring your own body. At our recent retreat, we actually had graph paper and compass and ruler, and we were drawing this out, but only because when you so practice it. Go get a compass, get some graph paper, practice drawing this and contemplate each circle. All right, what is source? What is the first circle? What is the second? What is the third? What is the triangle? But how does that relate to me, right? To my human experience? Meaning you, your human experience. So the Om point or the Bindu point here, we're talking about the outpouring of light, but also out of this point are what are called, but I've heard them called this basically the sparks of creation. In Sanskrit, they're called Anu and Par Anu. All the subatomic particles that make up the entire universe are basically coming out of that one source. And the idea is for all of that to return back. The main goal, though, is for each of us to just choose the return journey. It doesn't mean, again, that you stop functioning on this plane, but there is an ascension process. There is an enlightenment process. There is the journey back into source. And I hope tonight's just a reminder to deepen one's practice because you can meditate on this level. Basically, the crown chakra is considered a 1,000 petal lotus. When you ascend up into it, concentrated power right up into that, when you're out of your body, focused on that level, you will experience that outpouring of light. You go through it, and then you're back in source. You've transcended into what's called God beyond the beyond time and space. To me, that's a huge part of the enlightenment process is to know yourself as one with the transcendent absolute. Again, life mastery at the crown chakra level is the ability to move into deep samadhi meditation. The state would be called nirvikalp samadhi, where this individual sense of self drops away. And all you experience is your oneness with your source. However, there is a descent, and basically then you're experiencing oneness with all that is. The point is you're one with your source, you're one with the universe, and meditation helps us to feel that. Here, this image is called Sri Yantra, but one interesting thing to point out is the larger pyramid, the larger triangle in the Sri Yantra pattern is actually the exact 52-degree pyramid of the Great Pyramid on the Giza Plateau. Hold that thought because it's really fascinating again about why the pyramids are the shape they are and why our body in meditation takes that shape. So here's another image of Sri Yantra. The idea instead of mantra, where you can meditate on sound, yantra, you meditate on geometry, on imagery, but basically sacred geometry. You enter these gates from any of the cardinal points, basically north, south, east, west, or top, bottom, left, right. And you trace your eyes in and you basically keep going into the very center of that image called Sri Yantra. You just keep meditating right on the center. It becomes a very powerful, almost hypnotic, right? If you're staring at a point of fixation. The very center represents your heart. The very top is going to represent the crown chakra. The very bottom would represent your tailbone chakra. So you're basically meditating on you, but you are where you go to find the divine. You actually just turn your attention back inwards. We don't find the divine by running around outside of ourselves. We find the divine by being still and being quiet and turning the attention inwards. Again, is called pratyahara or sense withdrawal. We're drawing from the external world deep into our source. So mantras, yantras, any technique that gets you there, but basically it is an inner journey. From here, we have continued manifestation. The one becomes a two, becomes a three. But once it becomes four, notice how it's a bit out of balance. It's a bit lopsided. It's not quite complete. This can relate to the idea of the fall, where it's no longer perfect, where the divine consciousness starts forgetting itself, starts miscreating, and starts making for imbalanced realities, often even hellish type realities. But here we're going from beyond the perfect idea of creation. We're now starting to come up with ideas that are starting to manifest. And here we're talking about it's more of the mental causal level here. But where if you think microcosmically, where you can start thinking thoughts and you can think the thoughts you think with God and then you'll be in harmony, or you can choose to think thoughts that are not in harmony with the divine, leading to a disharmonious manifestation within your own system, meaning your energy fields aren't aligned. When your mind isn't aligned, your energy body won't be aligned, and that's where basically psychosomatic illness comes from. So here, the fifth emanation, and it's not too hard to learn to draw this. It's quite fun. Sixth emanation. Once you get the seventh, you have what's called the seed of life pattern, and there you can see the six-pointed star. But I'll jump ahead and I'll show you how this relates to the human body again. But here you can see macro and microcosmic. So again, not bearded man, but just symbology. Here you see the divine descending down into the physical and also ascending back up, returning to its source. The snake swallowing its tail is a symbol throughout the mystery schools called the Ouroboros, which is the idea of infinity. But for you, it's actually not a hot meditation, the microcosmic orbit. It's a recycling of energy up into spirit, down into human, up into spirit, down into human, or up the ascending triangle, down the descending triangle, up, ascending, down, descending. Energy needs to flow up and down your spine without hindrance. I'm very much into hypnotherapy because the thing that keeps all this energy from moving are largely suppressed emotional blocks. Breath work and good interpersonal hypnotherapy work, we can clear those blockages and help our clients to get the energy to flow again. If we teach them how to meditate in deep ways, we're really empowering them for the inner journey on their own. So you could find the four elements in the six-pointed star. Uh, Here in Theosophy and the Essenes, a Jewish mystical branch, we find the star, the Egyptian Ankh. The star here, black and white, representing again masculine, feminine, yin and yang. The swastika actually is not originally a Nazi symbol. It's just a symbol in the Indian traditions of energy moving, wheels turning, the wheel of Dharma, cycles, seasons. It's not necessarily meant to be a negative thing at all. And the Theosophists actually honored it in their symbol with the Ouroboros. Here on the right, you'll see what's called the Tetragrammaton, the four-letter name of God, Yod, He, Wah, He. It's a fascinating topic to go into. We definitely don't have time for it tonight, but it's tons of YouTube videos if you want to start learning about the four-letter name of God, which actually eventually turns into a 72-letter name of God or 72 names of the divine in these traditions. But we only have so much time tonight. Here you'll see, I believe this is a Jewish Seder plate with the star, and the heart shape is worth acknowledging. You'll see it in different, again, temples, churches, mosques. Of course, you'll see it in snowflakes and beehives. If you look at the way bees built their hives, they're using hexagram shapes. One, because everything fits so perfectly into each other instead of circles. This is a more optimistic form. But why Kepler wrote a short little book about why bees actually build it in this shape. And then why do snowflakes end up in this shape? So what you can keep doing is a continued manifestation of the cascading circular template where you just keep adding more circles around. Eventually, you start getting into these larger glyphs. And when you have enough of these circles, you can unfold what's called the flower of life. John Verla Melchizedek's done some really interesting work on how amino acid sequences, the basic building blocks of your body, map out inside of this pattern. But I'll show you this over the body. And if you haven't seen that already, it's really quite fascinating. Um, the zona pelliculata, forget exactly how to say that, the two circles around this actually represent the idea of containing the information of the flower of life so that those who aren't initiated couldn't understand the deeper mysteries. So in the flower of life, you can't actually get all the information, but from this larger template, you can. If you take away all circles except for 13, which you can't get from the flower of life, but when you go beyond the zona pelliculata, or however you say that, you end up able to get these 13 circles from this pattern. When you do, and you connect the lines, you get what's called Metatron's cube. If you want to go into understanding Metatron, then One that probably the most profound study is the Book of Enoch, but Book 3. There are other books that didn't end up in the primary Bible, the Old and New Testament. There's tons of other books that never made it in there, and it's a huge discussion. But in the Book of Enoch 1 and 2, it talks about his ascent into God consciousness. But Book 3 actually talks about once he was there. And basically, Enoch is said to have become Metatron. And when you read about the description of what supposedly happened to him, it's no small thing. You're talking about basically almost like God. He was considered the lesser Yahweh, like basically sitting at the right hand of the divine. But what does that mean? How is that relevant? The idea is this is you. This is your energy body when it's in fruition, when everything is unfolded and balanced. Or again, I use the term fruition, but life mastery. Your being is aligned in this way. Because again, this is in religious literature. I don't know of anything that much more glorious. I mean, the Bhagavad Gita has some pretty profound imagery of Krishna showing himself to Arjun. But study book 3 of the Book of Enoch, and you hear about how Enoch became Metatron. And what happened to him. But basically, it's the author's way of trying to say the highest you can conceive of is contained. This is me saying it this way, is contained in this symbol. So I'll show you that in a moment. If you study Plato, the Platonic solids tap into this idea, and Kepler again, but we only have so much time. The tree of life from the Kabbalistic system can be found easily uh, in the flower of life. But then again, I'll show you how that relates to the body. So this is similar, if you're not familiar with the tree of life, it's similar to the chakra system. The core central channel here absolutely would relate to what's called the Sushumna, but you also have these two side channels relating again to Ida and Pingala, solar and lunar, or here severity and mercy, the idea of balancing basically masculine and feminine within our system. So yeah, you can go into Kabbalah for that. But the idea here of Adam Kadmon is human is created in the image and likeness of the divine. I like how this actually kind of honors the meridians and acupoints in the body. And again, my background is Chinese medicine, learning how to move energy through these meridians. Anahata meditation does that by default. If you just practice Anahata meditation, it will open all of your meridians. And the idea here is the perfect and right idea of human, right? Like, is a human meant to be sick and impoverished and miserable and depressed and dysfunctional and filled with hatred? Like, is that what we're supposed to be? What's the essence? And Adam basically is just referring to the primary level of our being and not just masculine at all, like I'm saying, masculine and feminine. But we have to honor this is a traditions that are thousands of years old that often are highly patriarchal, but always remember we all have this inside of us. Hildegard von Bingen had some beautiful realizations about this, if you like to dive into her works. Gematria is the idea that every Hebrew letter is also a number, so that when you're reading scripture, you can see it as a string of numbers, and it gives a profound meaning to different words. But no time for that here either. You can definitely find in the traditions of alchemy the six-pointed star. So just a couple images from that. So here you'll see the ascending triangle, the descending triangle. In the middle is the six-pointed star as the philosopher's stone. Again, what the alchemists were utilizing, not as a substance, but as an internal way of being to transform the darkness back into the light, a balance of masculine, feminine, lunar, solar. We don't have time for the Tektraktis tonight, but you'll see it over the body. Also, you can see the four-letter name of God relating to that. This leads to, with Gematria, a total of 72 names of the divine. And here you can see it in the shape of a heart. But I find it fascinating to take those four letters, Yod, He, Wah, He, and stack it, the idea of the lesser Yahweh as an ascended human being. Now, again, the name of the Tetragrammaton is a very deep topic. However, just intuitively look and like it sure looks like a person, right? The way those letters are stacked horizontally. Again, the theme of tonight is us created in the image and likeness of the divine. Da Vinci knew this, of course, and here's the idea of the squared circle. I'll just give you some imagery quickly to intuitively see the divine proportion in the human being. So this is called Vitruvian Man, and basically it's the body standing. But what I'm showing you has a lot to do with the body when it is sitting. Not a five-pointed star, but the essence of the six-pointed star. Right. So yeah, this is found all throughout mystical alchemical literature. Um, the image here says the caption says something like take a circle, a square, and a triangle, and you will get human. You will get man. And again, you see kind of the Adam and Eve imagery within a squared circle and a triangle, and the idea of the supreme geometry. This is the Great Pyramid on the Giza Plateau based on phi and pi. Um, so we don't have time to go into the phi, the golden ratio, but just give you a sense that these profound uh, proportions are found within the human body. So here you will see the golden cut, as it's called, forming golden triangles and golden rectangles. Here you'll see it on your body. Your navel, when you're standing, is this dimension, but it's there on all of that proportion. It's there in all of your joints. It's in the spiral of your ear. It's in spiral galaxies and in sunflowers. You'll find this all throughout the universe, but you can find it in your own body. And that's where it becomes really fascinating. Here are golden spirals. Hold the thought for a sec. Just kind of get the image of that heart shape, basically. Here's the Sri Yantra pattern again, the 52-degree pyramid. And that is essentially, it's about 51 point something, but who's counting? Really, right around 52 degrees is the pyramid on the dimension on the Giza Plateau. These are the three chambers that we know about inside of the the pyramid. The pyramid, they never found coffins in there. They never found pharaohs in there. In fact, the best theories I've heard about, these are tuned resonant frequency chambers that initiates would go into for the highest, deepest mysteries. The king's chamber itself is fascinating to study, but one thing is there's a quote sarcophagus inside of that chamber, but they never found a body in it. Actually, it's the size of the biblical Ark of the Covenant. In the Bible, supposedly, God says to Moses, build this ark, and here's the exact dimensions to do it. The Ark of the Covenant is a capacitor. It has two layers of gold with a insulating layer in between. That's a capacitor. When you shut off your computer and they say unplug it for a minute, you're waiting for the capacitors to discharge. So there was a very powerful capacitor inside of this. And I believe what I'm learning is it related to a global energy grid that we've long since forgotten the technologies and how they even built these things. The theme is based upon sound, like the blocks were cut and levitated through sound, not through um, the tools that we had 5,000 years ago. I think most people are realizing it couldn't have been done just by a normal, average modern human being. Anyway, you could relate this to your body in profound ways and to the spiritual journey. But since we only have so much time tonight, here is the 52-degree pyramid with your body in meditation in quarter lotus with the legs as wide as possible and the hands actually on the outside the knees. But again, encouraging you to put your body into that position. The chakras, what we talked about, but they're clearly within your system. Again, when they draw a Buddha, in Buddhism, it has to be with these exact proportions. But why? Right? Including the crown on the head. Because those who've gone really deep have realized there is an exact proportionality to the body. Look at where the nipples are again, the exact size of the head, and from navel to tailbone. So I encourage you to find this within your own being. Excuse me, tickle in the throat. So again, in the yogic tradition, um, that's from the yoga tradition. We talked about divine androgyny a little bit. We don't have time for the concentric circle template, but you can see basically descending, ascending triangle, those three divisions. But let's go to the body itself. So here's the body. If you put a circle over it and you draw the six-pointed star, I would encourage you to really consider taking a picture of your body and doing this. You can put it on your screen, you can take Photoshop, whatever, and you can put a six-pointed star and see if all those proportions are lining up. But it's not just your physical body, of course, it's feeling this. So right now, if you were to close your eyes and feel from tailbone to crown, imagine a sphere there. And then the golden triangles are actually the pattern that the energy flows in Anahata meditation. But here you can see Hara, heart, and head, and the three main divisions within your own being. Um, so you can meditate on the circle of the head. There's also, you could see it as four divisions or seven divisions. But with seven, you've got the idea of the pyramid, or the prism, right? White light splits out into seven levels. Those are the seven levels of your being. We're talking about life mastery. Every chakra needs to be open and functional. And maybe in future classes we can go into really meditating on that. I think tonight it's going to be more just laying this foundation. But here you can see Metatron's cube over the body, and the precision of, like, look at the width of the shoulders right at the outside of the scapula. I'm sorry, the collarbones. Again, the nipples, the navel, the tailbone. But basically, you will feel energy moving through this grid. And remember, the idea of Metatron, this is Metatron's cube, is Enoch in the book of Enoch ascending into the divine. And basically, I'm going to say, like, the energy must have aligned in this way. It's a superconductor or a perfect light body. This tradition of the rainbow body in Tibetan Buddhism is basically where these monks meditate for like 30 something plus years. And when their body dies, the whole body just dissolves into pure light. All that's left is fingernails and hair, and I think teeth or something, because the non-living tissue is what's left. But the rest of the body transfigures into pure light. You could say it's what happened to Christ with the resurrection, but that's obviously debatable. But the whole idea of the Shroud of Turin is there was this huge energy release, and then the body just dissolved. That happened to Enoch, I believe. Well, let me not speak of traditions I'm not totally comfortable talking about, but yeah, basically the Tibetan rainbow body and what we see in Christ also, in the Self-Realization Fellowship, Lahiri Mahasya, was they were trying to take his picture, but they never could because it was always just an orb of light where he was. Everybody else you could see, but you couldn't see him. He said, all right, I'll densify my bodily atoms so you can take a picture of me so you can have the picture. But before an out-of-body experience, you feel the cells of the body or the atoms that seem to have like a lot of space in them. And one of the theories of how they're moving, how they move those great big megalithic stones was actually sound vibration creating spaciousness in the atoms because nothing here is solid. It's all really empty space. So your body isn't solid. Atoms are largely empty space, but we feel so dense. Meditating in these ways, infusing your being with light, really is helping to create your body as a superconductor for divine energy. So just some other images of the body with the star. These are the patterns, how Anahat energy moves through the Anahat meditation system. Um, yeah, so anyway, I can go on and on and on. Here's just one last image. If you square a circle, which we don't have time to go into tonight, this triangle right here, the base is at the heart level at the nipples and up to the top of the head. That's actually the Great Pyramid, the 52-degree pyramid on the Giza Plateau. The squared circle is a part of um, our school's logo. And this circle up here at the head, to 99% accuracy, is the exact size of the moon. So here's the pyramid. This circle, the smaller circle, represents the Earth. Like if that was the exact size of the Earth, This circle up here is the exact size of the moon. Just contemplate that. Ask yourself, like, how possibly within my own body, the proportions in my body have the Great Pyramid, the Earth, and the moon right there inside of you. So you don't have to go to the Great Pyramid. Right now, supposedly, the Earth is doing something. We're at a time where you can literally just sit in meditation and experience all these mysteries within yourself. Um, Here, remember I said, remember the arcing image of the heart shape? Here, when the energy comes up, it branches out and forms a shape of wings. So this is called the sacred geometry of compassion. When your chakras are fully open and love and light flow through with no hindrance, you get this aura. That's where the aura around saints comes from, because all the energy is made it to the crown. It branches out in it's a tube torus pattern, like a donut, like the Earth's magnetic field grid. But here, you could really consider it kind of like wings unfolding. And when you're out of your body, you can fly. All right. So here's the Tetractes. We didn't have time to go into it, but you could see the exact locations of the third eye, the heart, and the hara uh, in the body, as well as the tree of life in the body. So if you study Kabbalah, specifically the Sephirot of the tree of life, you will find instead of seven chakras, 10 basic energy centers that you can contemplate. And can be really profound in how you can organize your mind. Like I set up my business structure. In fact, my partner Faith, at our upcoming conference, she'll be presenting about our new clinic and how she was meditating on structuring the business of the clinic based on the tree of life. So, really fascinating to organize your mind in that way. Basically, the conclusion of this tonight is to meditate. If you want to learn more, you can go to onlinemonastery.com. Our retreats, we go into these topics now up here in the Adirondacks in person. The Anahata Meditation System has 12 different levels, starting here with descending. And then as you unfold all of them, here you'll see meditation 10 called wings, where the energy branches out. And meditation 12 actually goes into something called yogic or Taoist bone breathing, where you're packing your bones with qi. The idea, again, is your body is a superconductor for divine energy. In life mastery, like the deepest level of life mastery would essentially be when you are completely aligned on all levels. So, this is just in closing a picture of me back in 2004. I'd just come back from India and I was writing my book, The Sacred Geometry of Meditation. Again, it took 11 years to compile all this information. So, with that said, it's open to any Q&A. I hope you found that inspiring. I know we didn't do a meditation formally, but hopefully not overly heady, but hopefully, inspiring. Any questions you're sharing?
I do
Yes,
have a
Paula.
question.
Lily.
Actually, they are two. One is there any difference between awareness and consciousness?
Hmm.
And the other one is this about the exact proportions.
Hmm.
It affects in some way if I don't have the exact proportions to unblock the chakras and had that experience.
Gotcha. So, yeah, so the first one should be easy. I think in English, the word awareness and the word consciousness could definitely be synonymous, right? No problem. English isn't a sacred divine language. It doesn't have ways of explaining things the way Sanskrit or Hebrew or Tibetan might be able to explain things, or other languages that are far older that actually have different words. So in Sanskrit, we might say Purush or Shiv or Atma or Brahm or para-atma. In, in that context, these words would have slightly different meanings, meaning we're talking about the same substance, but we're talking about it from different angles, like water is clear and water is wet, but it's still the same water. I would just say
Okay.
here, you're talking about spirit, which is conscious, which is aware, right? So when Buddha was enlightened, they said, "What happened?" And he said, "I woke up." Right? I realized I am awake. I am aware. I am consciousness. I don't become it. I am it. So for simplicity, I would say, yes, you are consciousness, you
Thank
are
you.
awareness. and no need to think of it dualistically, as it could be something else. And then, as far as your body not being based in these proportions, it doesn't matter. If everybody's body had to be perfectly aligned for self-realization, the plan for salvation in A Course in Miracles would never be possible, right? Until everybody's body was perfectly, everybody was just a perfect 10 in every way, like whatever that would mean, right? Like spirit would never be that cruel. So no, you might say that enlightenment or salvation or ascension is an inner mental, emotional, energetic process that really has nothing to do with your body. You could not know any of these teachings, be on a deserted island alone and
Yeah.
find the divine, right?
Oh, okay.
So yeah, I would say it doesn't really matter. However, it is interesting to contemplate the proportions of a person's body based on the idea that it's not that your consciousness, I'm sorry, it's not that your body emanates consciousness. Like, there's a brain and consciousness comes out of that. There's no proof of that whatsoever. Most the deep thinkers say it's totally the opposite. Consciousness manifests the body. It does it through a step down system. Consciousness manifests mind, manifests the emotional body, the astral body, the etheric body, and then the physical body. So you might say if your physical body was not aligned, not in proportion, not healthy,
Yeah.
how could that be a communication to imbalances you might have inside? And notice how I'm saying like might, because I'm not saying
Right.
somebody who has a, let's say, not well-formed arm, you couldn't say, hey, that person's not enlightened. Like you can never judge a person based on their physical body in that sense. But like I said, take a picture of your body and
Yeah.
put those glyphs over it and just see how it lines up. But don't conclude anything from that. As far as like, oh, I must
Okay.
not be enlightened or be able to be enlightened, I don't think it matters. But they do teach in the most traditions, only a human being can reach enlightenment. Animals are not primed and ready for that. I can go on, why they say that, but basically, they say animals can't do it and angels can't do it. Angels are doing kind of well, so they're not striving for it. Animals don't necessarily have the capacity yet. But supposedly, human beings are the only beings who can sit in meditation like this and contemplate the divine the way that we do. And we're suffering enough that we have a real good reason to do so. So, yeah, I don't think it matters the exact proportions of your body, mostly that you just do practice meditation, which I know you do.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lily. Any other questions you're sharing? All right, cool. So,
Can I
that
ask
was
a question?
yeah, just one second, I'll go back to questions. That was class 10. We talked about the Sacred Geometry Meditation, my book, the Sacred Geometry Meditation, including touched upon Merkaba fields and the energy body. Next week, we'll go into the Sutras on Healing and Enlightenment, a spiritually based approach to mind body healing. It's one of my other books, and we'll relate it to life mastery in the sense of, to me, enlightenment is a part of the mastery process, but also the ability to heal. Healing and enlightenment are synonymous terms. So it's not mastery, really, if your mind, emotions, and body are not healthy and balanced. So that's what we'll talk about in 2 weeks. Go ahead. Somebody else had a question?
Yeah, Matthew, I
Yeah,
did.
sure.
It might be a bit naive, but what's the difference between the thymus chakra and the heart chakra?
Yeah, I don't think there would be, except different traditions have the chakras in different places and different numbers of chakras. But the thymus gland and the heart pretty much all right here. Now I think you're talking about the heart chakra because you're talking that area. In C.W. Leadbeater's version of the chakras, the third chakra is actually off to the left. But I've never heard a system where there was any other um, energy center but the heart at the heart. So, because it's not a physical thing, because it's an energy thing and it's rather large, it's going to cover that area. So, no, I think they're talking about the same thing. Does that help?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, the colors in the chakras could be different depending on what system you study. Some will say, no, there's not seven, there's actually 11 or 12. There's like one below your feet, there's three above your head. Yeah, and there's different systems with slightly different locations. But generally, yeah, we just, like in our school, we just pretty much go with the traditional seven chakra model from tailbone to crown, where the heart or the thymus is right in the middle. Good. Awesome. Any other questions you're sharing before I wrap it up? All right. Thank you all. Appreciate you being here. Have a wonderful evening. And in 2 weeks, we'll go into the Sutras on Healing and Enlightenment teachings. Thank you all. Have a good night.
Thank you, Matthew.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thanks, Stephanie.